we're going to talk about Zoom meetings. Zoom is pretty fully featured. It does most of the same things that Google Hangouts does. There are some additional features that make it kind of handy. The first thing that I kind of want to talk about is the Zoom account. So you can use a free account. You're limited to 40-minute meetings and 25 participants. For students, for example, if they wanted to create a Zoom meeting between themselves, they can certainly do that. We do have pro account licenses, which allow you to have up to 100 participants and basically unlimited length for the meeting. It's 24 hours is the technical limit. When you sign in, so if you were to create a free account, you would sign in with your email address and password. That would work even if you used your Beloit College email address. If you have a pro account, and if you don't have a pro account, you can submit a school dude request and request one. We can set you up with that. If you have a pro account, you'll want to use this sign in with Google button, and that will ensure that you log in with the pro account and not a free account that you might have created before. So when you go to sign in, I'm just going to the website, which is zoom.us. When you go to sign in, you're going to see a bunch of information. You'll be taken right to your meetings page first, which will show any current meetings that you have scheduled, like our conference meeting today. It will also let you schedule new meetings directly from there. We're going to go into a couple different ways to set up meetings. And the first thing that you want to do is get the app. If you go to this resources link at the top after you sign in, you can click download Zoom client. And then it's the first download link, and that will download the app installer. You can run that, and that will install the Zoom client on your computer. If you're on a PC, it would be the same thing. So if you go to zoom.us, zoom.us, resources at the top, download Zoom client, and then just hit download. Once you have it installed, or once you actually run the installer, it will install it and open up Zoom for you. We've already got it installed here. If you are on a college Mac, you can open up the self-service app as well, and Zoom is in there. You can install it through that app as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the app so you can see what that looks like. I'm already signed in, but again, if you were to sign in, you'll want to make sure that you choose the sign in with Google if you have a pro account. And that way you are signing in with your pro account and not with your free one if you use a free account. Once you sign in, a couple of things you'll see here at the top is your profile. You can check to make sure that you're on your pro account. It'll say licensed at the top here. And then there's some other settings that you can change for your profile, your picture, all that fun stuff. Right below it, there's a settings icon. You click on that. There's a whole bunch of settings in here. The important ones will be under video. It'll let you choose your camera. So if you have another like external camera that's plugged into your computer, you might want to choose that instead of the built-in camera. If you had a document camera, you could also choose that. And you can switch between cameras during a meeting, so you don't have to choose it right here, but this gives you a way to set it in advance. Same thing for audio. Your microphone, you can choose it here. You can see mine's already showing me that there's an activity. If it wasn't showing that and I wanted to test it, I can hit test mic. It'll let you record a little bit of audio, and then you can press that button again, you can play it back, and that way you can see how you sound and make sure that it's working out okay. And then your speakers as well. If you had headphones or like a Bluetooth headset or something like that, you may need to choose it in this list to make sure that you're hearing other people in the right way. And then if we go back, so this is the main screen that you're going to see to be able to set up meetings. The easiest way to start a meeting is just to hit this orange new meeting button. Once I do that, I'm going to be presented with this option here. It's going to ask me if I want to use computer audio, which will use the microphone and speakers that are built into the computer, or I can choose to connect by a phone. I can call any of these numbers here, put in the meeting ID. It'll ask you for a participant ID, which you don't have to do, but if you enter that in and you're the host of the meeting, then they know that you're the host through the phone conference. But for right now, I'll just do computer audio. And going to unmute that just so there's no feedback for right now. By default, when I started that meeting, you noticed that the camera was not enabled. That is an option that you can set down at the bottom here. You can just click on the camera icon to enable it. Same thing for the microphone. You unmute it. You can see that there's a little green video meter there just showing that there's some audio going. And then you can click on it to mute it. One of the nice features about Zoom is that when you are muted, which is handy for if you have a group, you generally would want everyone to stay muted so that there's not a lot of feedback and background noise. But there's a quick way to unmute yourself, which is just to press and hold down the spacebar key on your keyboard. And then you'll see that you're muted while you're holding down the spacebar key. And then as soon as you let go, then you'll be muted again. So you have your audio options here. You click on that little arrow, it'll let you choose which audio device. So again, if I had an external microphone, I could choose that here. Same thing for the speaker options. And then same thing for the camera as well. If I had multiple cameras, I could choose another camera here. And you can switch back and forth live within a meeting. And then a quick way to invite someone else. So once you've started that meeting, you can click on this invite button down here. These contacts that you're seeing right here are contacts that I have emailed or communicated with from this account on this computer. It's not everyone in the college. In order to send an email invite, I would click on this email link at the top, and then Gmail because we use G Suite for our college. What that will do is when you click on that, it'll start up a new email for you with all the relevant meeting information, phone numbers, the meeting ID. If you had a passcode, there would be a passcode here too, and a link to join the meeting. This link, if I copy that, if I were to send that to someone else, they can click right on that link or paste it in their browser, and that will instantly join them to the meeting. It'll ask you to open Zoom. If you didn't already have it installed, it would give you the option to download Zoom, and then it brings you right into the meeting. So, so now I'm in this meeting, both as myself and as someone else. So if I go to participants down here at the bottom, you can see that I'm joined as the host. I was the one that started it. And then the other Athena that joined over here is also in the meeting as well. So when you click on that participants, it'll give you an option or give you the ability to see everyone that's joined. You can see if they are muted or not. If they're muted, they'll have a little red line through their mic. Same thing for the camera. You can see whether or not they're joined there. And then there are a couple other options for the participants here. If you click on this more menu next to them, you can open up a direct chat with someone, and you'll see here it'll show who you're chatting with and that it's a private chat. So now if I said something in chat, you would see that I've got a message here. And I've got a private chat. I can chat back and forth. And we're the only ones that can see that. And then to switch back to chat with everyone, you can click on that little button and choose everyone for the meeting. And then anything that you say within that chat would then be available to everyone. So everyone has the ability to chat. You can't really lock it down to specific people. You can't really stop other people from chatting with each other. So just keep that in mind. A couple other options that are in here. You can make someone else the host. So if you plan on leaving a meeting, but you want it to continue, you want to make sure that there's at least one host. So you can make someone else the host before you leave. You can also, because we have the ability to do closed captioning enabled, you can assign someone to do closed captioning, which means that they have to literally type the captions for you. So that would be an option. Turn on closed captioning. You don't see it on the screen at the bottom here, this more menu. You can enable it through closed caption, and then it will ask you to assign someone. We don't have a third-party service at the moment that would work with that, so someone would still have to actually type the captions in there. Other options here, you can allow your participants to record on their own. We'll get into recording our own meetings as a host shortly. You can rename someone if they have an inappropriate name for some reason. And then you can remove them as well if you need to kick them out of the meeting for some reason. You can do that. Any questions so far? Yeah.
2 of my 3 classes have more than 25.
So the question was, if you have more than 25 students, as long as you're using a pro license, then you won't have that same limitation. So pro licenses are up to 100 participants. So if you haven't requested a pro license yet, put in a school loop ticket and make sure that you get that. And that way you're not limited by how many students.
What does pro license mean?
The pro license. Okay. The pro license is the paid license, so it gives you the ability to have longer meetings. Because if you had the free license, you would be limited to that 40-minute time span. The pro license just makes that unlimited, so you don't have those limitations any longer. Yep. So we have pro licenses available for all faculty.
Yeah, and you can connect to up to 100 users with a pro license. So, and you have an account. So,
yeah. So I was thinking of only an office hour, which would be through the meeting, and then of course do my lectures asynchronously. And this would be the one thing that I do synchronously, I guess.
Yeah, so as long as you have that pro account, then whether or not you schedule this or you're just creating a meeting ad hoc whenever you need it, with that pro license, you're good for 100 up to 100. Were you muted?
And when you started, you downloaded Zoom client. Is that necessary each time?
So the question was, do you need to download the Zoom client each time? And the answer for that is no. So once you have the client installed, then you're good to go. If you try and join a meeting and you don't have it installed, it will prompt you to install it. The reason that I went and manually installed it first was just so that we can get a meeting set up quickly and get started. But that's only a one-time thing.
We have a question from chat too. If you have a pro license but the students don't, does that mean we can do the full time?
So as long as the host is the one with the pro license, then you can continue the meeting up to that 24-hour limit. My understanding is that if you start a meeting as a host with a pro license and you have students that join and then you make one of them the host afterwards, as long as you started it before you made someone else the host, then it continues as if it were your meeting. So I don't think that there's a limitation if you start it with a pro license, with your license. Does that answer the question? The key is the host. So it's the person that initiates the meeting. As long as you're the one that initiates it and you're the one that has the license, then you shouldn't run into any issues with that. No, so if you use the free version, you don't have to download the app each time. It's the same app, it's the same experience, but you're limited by just the free account.
It's just a one downloaded install.
Cool. Okay, so we've got a couple other options in here. So there is the ability to mute everyone, which again is kind of helpful if you have a lot of participants, you can get a lot of feedback and background noise. So I generally would recommend that you kind of keep everyone muted. You have the ability to stop people from unmuting themselves if you need to force that, and they will see that. You can also unmute people. You can individually mute or unmute someone as well. If I do unmute, there are other options for muting as well. So mute participants on entry. Obviously, when they join, they'll be muted. Other options that we kind of just went through. Participants can unmute themselves. You can have sound play when you join, and you can lock the meeting from external people joining. So if you, for example, wanted to have a private meeting, but other people had your link to join that meeting, then this would prevent them from joining. And we'll get into more options on how to invite other people as well. So let me go back to that now. If I go back to the invite button here. So we covered how to do an email invitation. A couple other ways that you can invite someone. You can copy the URL right down here at the bottom. And that does the same thing that we did before. It just gives me a URL that I can paste in or post a Moodle or do whatever I'd like there. That link you can put wherever. Anyone that has that link will be able to join. So just keep that in mind. It's just a one-click link. There's no password. It's not restricted to anything. So, you know, if it's something that you want it to be public and easily accessible, you can use the URL, but just keep in mind that anyone that has it can join. The other option is to copy the invitation, which just copies all the meeting information that shows up, like when you create an email, or we'll get into creating scheduled events. All this meeting information here that contains your password, the meeting ID, phone numbers, all that would be copied as well. We've done participants. There's a couple other options in here that are kind of cool. You can do polling, so you can have a question that will go out to all of your participants. So if I add an option, I can set up a question, set up answers, and then anyone that's a participant can answer. I also have the ability to do breakout rooms. So under more, breakout rooms. What this will do is this will group people in their own rooms and allow them to communicate with each other, and then you can close that so it gives people a way to do kind of their own little meetings and then regroup afterwards. You can either do it automatically where they will be divided up randomly, or just manually do it and then manually assign. You know, if we had multiple people here, we'd be able to assign a few more, but you can add a room. I can assign the other Athena. And then once you're done, just say open. That would open up that room for everyone. Let's see what else. So there are reactions. This is a way that someone can respond in chat. So that screen's a little bit frozen, so no big deal. So there are reactions that people can react with. There's also the ability to do what's called a hand raise. So if I were in chat, at the bottom, there would be a button that says raise your hand. I can't show it on this screen. The screen's kind of locked up right now. Oh, there it goes. Let's see if we can get that back up. What raising your hand does is it puts a little icon next to that person's name in the chat, I'm sorry, the participants, and then you'll see here, raise hand. Puts a little icon next to my name, and that way, as the host, I know that that person wants some attention. I can either respond to them and they can lower their own hand, or you can just hit the lower hand button, and that kind of gets rid of it. It's a good way to get some responses from people. The last thing I can show here is the screen sharing functionality, which is super helpful. So I'm hosting right now, and I am using my webcam as the broadcast. So I'm going to say share screen. What that's going to let me do is it's going to let me share my desktop. By default, it would just be the entire desktop. You can also choose like a specific window. So if I had a web browser open, for example, or like a PowerPoint, really anything, I can do screen share and then share just that window. What that gives you the ability to do is share one screen. So, and you can see there's like a green outline. It's a little bit hard to see. There's an outline around whatever's being shared. So right now, that Chrome window is being shared, but I can still do things in the background and no one else can see. So if I jump over here to see what a participant is seeing, so I can see that Chrome window and I can see the host as they're presenting themselves, but I can't see anything beyond that. So I can still open up other files, I can look at my notes, whatever I need to do without having all that be exposed. If I were to share the whole desktop, then you would see the green outline is over the whole desktop and everything would be shared. So you have a messy desktop, just keep that in mind. Couple options that you can do when you are sharing your screen. You can annotate, so you can either draw on screen. You have a bunch of different options here. You can, go through, erase that, clear your drawings. There is this what they call spotlight. It's kind of like a laser pointer. Gives you a little red dot on the screen. My cursor is right there right now, so it's a little bit hard to see it, but you can also change that to an arrow. A couple different options that you have for drawing. You can save your annotations. And then when you're done sharing, you can say stop sharing. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, unfortunately, the screens I need to share contain musical recorded file. Does that shared screen produce sound?
Sure, so it was a good question. So the question was, can you share audio through screen sharing? And the answer is yes. So at the very bottom here, there's this share computer sound checkbox. Make sure that you check that if you do want the audio from your computer to be shared. This would work for anything if you have an audio application. I'll give you another example as well. If you had, let's say, a YouTube video that you wanted to share, usually I would recommend that you share it through either a link to the YouTube video or share it through like Moodle or something like that. But you can share it through screen sharing as well. You just may not get the same quality that you expect, or there may be a little bit of lag and things like that. So if I do screen sharing, and I've got a YouTube video playing right now, I can do share computer sound. For videos specifically, when you have something like YouTube playing, you'll also want to check this option that says optimize screen share for video clip. And that just helps the quality be a little bit better, and it's a little bit smoother of a stream for you. So now I'm streaming this page. I'm actually streaming the entire Chrome window. So if I were to look at what someone else is seeing, my connection here is not the greatest, so it's a little bit choppier than normal, but that's something that you have to consider as well. If your students don't have the greatest internet connection and you're trying to stream something like video, they may see this kind of thing where things, pause for a little bit, they start buffering, they kind of slow down. So just keep that in mind. Same thing for audio, even if you're, if you're streaming it from your computer, there may be some slowdown. So just keep in mind that it may not be the optimal experience. So again, I would generally recommend linking directly out to videos so that they're able to view it on their own browser with their connection, not going through the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
You can paste links right in the chat as well.
Videos like this are best to do asynchronously. Send them the link and ask them to watch it before the session so that we can discuss it live in the session if you're doing synchronous learning. So.
Yeah.
Okay, then in the reverse, since they're that far away, is it possible for them to send me the sound file?
So the question was, is it possible for students to send sound through? So that you could either have them, if it's like a specific file that you wanted them to send, I mean, they can send it through, for files, I would recommend like Google Drive, sharing it that way, because we have unlimited space.
Chat.
That way you have it. So,
You can do it through chat.
you could do it through the chat as well. So if you click on, I go into chat here. Can you do it through chat?
It might be only the host then.
I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if you can.
I thought you could.
Yeah, I would just suggest using Google Drive, because that way you have the ability to control kind of who's able to see it. And then you can just paste the link right into the chat here. If it's streaming, so as a participant, I can also share my screen. And same thing, I can share my computer sound. So if I've got an audio application or something on my computer, I can stream that to everyone. Keep in mind that everyone would be able to see what's being shared. So privacy concerns may be something to think about, things like that. But it would be available to anyone that is in the meeting. So right up at the top here, you can see the current participants. So as the host, I've got my video going. If I've got a participant, in this case, that participant doesn't have their video going or screen sharing. But if they were, then you would see that in that preview there. And you can click on, double click on rather, any of these previews at the top to maximize their stream. Same thing goes for the host. I can go view myself if I wanted to go to the host. know why I would do that, but yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting. When I end it, it's going to give me the option to end the meeting for everyone, which just instantly stops it. If I just choose leave meeting, then it will keep the meeting open. However, if there's not another host in the meeting, then no one will be able to control it. So everyone can continue to talk and do things, but there won't be any ability to either assign other hosts. There won't be the ability to kick anyone. There won't be the ability to change controls, mute, things like that. So just keep that in mind. So if I go back, a couple other ways that we can schedule meetings. There is a schedule button built into Zoom that's going to give you a list of a whole bunch of different features. Generally with scheduling, I would recommend doing it through the website. It has almost the same features, but it has a few other options. So I'll show that really quickly. So again, if you just go to zoom.us, once you've logged in, and remember to use that sign in with Google option. Go to meetings on the left. This will show any meetings that you have scheduled already. If you click on this schedule new meeting button, it brings up the same options that you saw before, but there are a few additional ones here as well. So you can set your title for the meeting, whatever you want to call it. A short description just gives you some more information and context about the meeting. And then the date and time and duration. One thing to note about the duration is if, let's say, you have a meeting that goes until 2 o'clock and you're still in the meeting at 2 o'clock, it will not end just because the schedule ended. This date and time is really just for your reference and for your ability to get it scheduled correctly on a calendar to let everyone kind of know when the meeting is going to be. It doesn't actually affect the meeting itself. The one exception to that is the meeting, you can either have a meeting start on schedule without you being present, in which case it will start whenever your date and time is set for. Otherwise, you can start that meeting at any time. So even if I schedule this a week in advance, I can start it when I'm ready. And then underneath this, there is an option to make a recurring meeting. So I can, if I had, for example, if I wanted to set office hours, I can set, let's say, a weekly meeting every Tuesday and Thursday from now until the end of the semester. If you're going to be available for that, that's great. And this will just create multiple calendar events for you so that you can more easily start the same meeting in each event. And what this will do as well is it'll use the same information. So it'll have the same password, it'll have the same meeting ID, and it'll use the same link. So once you've created a recurring meeting, that meeting is available to anyone that has that link on any of those dates and times that are in that recurring meeting.
This is a great way to do office hours because it's going to have a static link. So you could even put that in your Moodle course as, here's my office hours, here's the link. Then it's always there for students when they're working in Moodle, they know they can hit that link and go right in.
Cool. So then there's registration required, just requires them to pre-register for an event. So generally not recommended for like a class or something like that. This would be more like if you wanted people to RSVP for something specifically. It asks for their email address and first and last name for you before you can join. Meeting password, I would always recommend having a password. It's just an additional step of security. You can set that to something else if you'd like, but otherwise it just generates one for you. Video and audio options these are the defaults for the beginning of the meeting. So if I set, for example, the host camera to be on and the participant camera to be off, when I start the meeting, these will be the settings that are enabled. But at any time, I can go in and turn on and off my own camera. Students or participants can turn on and off their own cameras. Same thing for the audio. You have the ability to set this, but this is just kind of like the default setting. If I choose to use only computer audio, you could still call in afterwards. This is just like the starting setting. So generally, I would recommend leaving that to both and having this set however you like. Generally, I would say start with the cameras off just in case people don't want to see themselves. couple other options. So enable join before host. This is what will allow a scheduled meeting to start when you have it scheduled for without you being there. So if I have this set and I send out an invitation and I don't happen to be there at that time, other people can join. They can start talking and then I can join when I'm ready. If I don't have this turned on, it won't start automatically. I would have to actually activate the meeting myself. Mute participants on entry, I would strongly recommend that just because, again, background noise and feedback can become an issue. Waiting room, what this will do is this will start a room that all your participants will join when they join the meeting, but it's separate from the main meeting room. And you can add people from the waiting room to your meeting. So for example, if you had office hours, this would be helpful because anyone coming in for office hours will go into the waiting room. You can pull one into your main meeting room, speak to them one-on-one, and then once they leave, you can invite the next person from the waiting room. So it's a helpful way to kind of do some like crowd control and queue people up if they've got questions. If you want to talk privately one-on-one, that's one way to handle it. And then you've got only authenticated users to join. It just means that they have to have an account. It's not really necessary. So if I were to invite someone to a meeting right now without that setting enabled, they wouldn't have to have an account. All they need is that link or that meeting invitation, meeting ID number and passcode, and they would be able to join. So this is just an extra step. It's up to you, but it's really not necessary, I don't think, as long as you have a passcode set up. And then the last option is to record the meeting automatically. I didn't show, but you can record the meeting from within the meeting, and I will show that shortly. But there's two options here. So when you record a meeting, you can either save it to your computer or you can save it in the cloud. In the cloud, we'll save it to Zoom server. We're a little bit limited on the amount of space that we have as an organization. So originally, this is kind of an easier option because it just gives you a link once the recording is done. It takes a little bit of time to process. So everything's being processed in the cloud. For example, yesterday we did the same workshop and it took about 16 hours to process. So I got a link, I think early this morning for yesterday's meeting. For short meetings, it can only take a few minutes, but that link I could share out to my students, to anyone else really, and they would be able to view that recording from that meeting. Generally though, we would recommend using the local computer option and then uploading that meeting to your Google Drive. The reason for that is that we have unlimited space with Google Drive. You also get control over it because you have the file. You can do what you want with it. And then you can share out from Google Drive to Moodle or through an email, anything like that. And I'll show you how to do that as well. When you record a meeting, it will go into your documents folder, Mac or PC. It'll be in the documents folder and then the Zoom folder. And then you'll see a meeting folder for that specific meeting with date, time, the name of the meeting, and the meeting ID number. And then within there, you'll find the actual video file from the meeting. It's going to be just as you would see it, as if you were presenting. And there's also the audio from that meeting as well. So if you want just the audio, you have the ability to access that.
Leslie asked, where can we find the links to yesterday's meetings?
So yesterday's meetings, for those who asked, we will post those out as soon as they're done. So the one of the meetings was still processing the last time that I checked. We're sending out, the library is sending out daily emails to just go over kind of some of the changes that are happening and things that we're doing to keep everyone informed of where we're at. So we'll make sure that it goes out there as well.
We'll probably try and get it posted tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be, if not today, then tomorrow. So, so your video here, again, you can just throw that on the Google Drive and then link from it. I'll show you how to do that from within Moodle. So I'm going to go ahead and save this meeting for right now. Last option here is the alternative host. So this is important if you plan on scheduling a meeting and either A, you don't want to be there. So if you're scheduling it on behalf of other people, you can add someone else as the host so that they can join and they can be the host and you don't have to really have any hands-on it, involved with it. The other option is if you let's say you're going to have a class and you have a TA or someone that you want to continue to host a class after you leave. It would be helpful to have them as an alternate host. But again, you can assign these within the meeting as well, so you don't necessarily have to do it ahead of time. This is more helpful for scheduling meetings. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to be taken to this page. You'll see that I have a Google Calendar link here, which will create an invitation for that meeting. And because it was a recurring meeting, it's also got the recurring setting for all the additional meetings. So if I were to add this to my calendar, it's going to add each of those instances. They're all going to have, because it's a recurring meeting, the same link. And all the meeting information will be attached to that calendar invitation as well. So all I need to do is add whoever I want to join in the meeting, hit save, and that's going to send out calendar invites with all that information. If I don't save this, this calendar invite is more for my kind of being able to track the meeting. It's not really required for the meeting to work. So if I go into meetings and I look under one of these recurring meetings that I started, let's say this was the one that we wanted to start with, I can start that right now. I don't need to do anything. It doesn't have to be on my calendar. I can also go into the meeting and I can grab that calendar invite at any time. So there are other ways to link to that meeting. You've got the URL, which again is just a one-stop URL. You can post that to Moodle and you can join the meeting in just one click. You can copy the text invitation. So that's that full meeting information, including the call-in numbers and passcode and all that. And then it shows your meeting options here. You can edit it later on. The other cool thing you can do here is to save your meeting as a template. So if you go and you set up one meeting, you have everything set just the way you want, you can save it as a template. And then the next time you go to create a meeting, you have the ability to select that template and it automatically fills in all the settings the same way as that original meeting was set. Any other questions so far?
Might want to talk about the Chrome plugin since it's right there.
Yeah, so this, you'll see this right here at the top. If you're not using Chrome, I would recommend that you do, but it's it works pretty well with Zoom. So there's a plugin. This extension will make it a little bit easier to initiate meetings, either from Google Calendar or just from anywhere. So I'm going to open up my calendar just so you can see the integration there. So if I wanted to initiate a meeting from my calendar, I can start a meeting. I'm going to go into more options just so you can see it as a little bit more detailed here. You'll notice right under location, now I have a make Zoom meeting button. If I click that, it's going to give me all the meeting options that I had before. Again, there are a few less here. So you can do it. This is a quick way to do it, but you do have more options doing it through the Zoom website directly. And then once you've added that, if you were to save that meeting, it has all the same information that you would have if you scheduled it any other way. You have all the meeting information attached in the description, and then it would go out to whoever you've added as a guest. The other way you can do it is from this button up here. You click on that. It would ask you to sign in if you weren't signed in already, but then just say schedule a meeting. Gives you those same options that you can choose from. Once you save it, it pulls up calendar invite and lets you schedule it that way as well. Okay, any other questions? So we've got a meeting scheduled. I'm going to go ahead and start this and just show the recording one more time, and we'll go into how to add that to Moodle. So I started just a quick meeting, so it's not doing anything fancy. If I want to go ahead and record this, if I go to More, I have the option to record to this computer. I'm going to go ahead and just expand this window so that you can see what that button looks like. It's a little, no, there we go. So you've got this record option here. If I do record on this computer, you'll see up the top that it's showing that we're recording now. It's currently saving it to the computer, and as soon as I hit stop, it will stop and it will create that file. It'll be there on the computer ready to go. You can pause at any time. So if I pause the recording now, I can go and have a conversation with whoever's in the meeting, and they won't be able to see this in the recording. So the recording will just kind of stop at that point. I can then resume the meeting, or resume the recording rather, and continue recording from there. When I'm done, just hit stop. You can also record to the cloud from here. So again, if I do record to cloud, that's going to start recording it to Zoom's cloud server. And that's the case where once you're done, instead of having a file on the computer, you're going to get a link emailed to you as soon as that meeting has been processed. And that link you can share out with that recording. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this conversion comes up whenever you have a locally recorded meeting. So when you've saved the meeting to your computer. And so you can see here that recorded, saved as a video. And now I've got my recording. So if I wanted to post that to Moodle, I can go into Google Drive, and I can do this from Google Drive file stream as well. But I can upload that video. And keep in mind, if you've been recording a meeting for like an hour or so, this could be a pretty large file, could be a few hundred megabytes. So it can take a little while to upload, especially if you're on a slower internet connection. So just keep that in mind. Google Drive is pretty good about uploading big files, but you may run into some issues with that. So now that I've got my video in Google Drive, if I right-click on it and choose Get Shareable Link, that gives me a link that I can really hand out anywhere. I can post it to Moodle, or I can just email it out, and then I've got a way to play it right in the browser there. If I go into my mail, give this a couple minutes. So I recorded the one Zoom meeting. We should see a link appear here in just a few minutes. It might be a little bit slow because lately it's been a little bit overwhelmed. But if I go into Moodle, log in. My big course here, editing. And then if you do add an activity or resource, just go down to URL. So just like if I were linking to any other resource, video, something else, I can paste in that Google Drive link to the video that I recorded earlier. Name it. And save it. I've got a link here. So you can write to my Google Drive, and as long as it's shared with your students, then they'll be able to see it. So when you do that shareable link, anyone with that link can see it. So anyone should be able to access it. Just keep that in mind that if someone says they can't access it, make sure that they have permission to. I'll go to one of our other Zoom meetings. Actually, I don't know if I'm recorded. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see this one's still processing. Oh, am I still in the meeting? No, I'm not. So what would happen is when you log into the Zoom website and you go over to recordings, you would see your list of recordings here. It'll show processing until it's been completed, and then you would get a link to it. If this were finished, we would also see there would be a little like a trash can icon next to it that would let me delete the meeting from the cloud. And then you can see over here where it says trash. This will show anything that I've already deleted that's already in the trash. So there's one in here. I'm going to recover it for now just so we can look at what a meeting would look like that's recorded in the cloud. Or you can permanently delete it with that delete button here. So if I go back to recordings, so there's my meeting that I've recorded. I can either download it directly from Zoom, or I can share it with a link. You can also just copy the link to it. So if I click on the meeting, well, that one was broken, but if I had a meeting there, I could just copy the link to it and that would let me share it out. Any questions on recording, video, sharing?
Question in chat.
So we have Jessica in chat asking do you have to require registering for the meeting in order to take attendance? I want to have a record afterwards of who was there. That's a great question. The difficulty is that Zoom also adds a call-in link, and that's going to be listed only by phone number.
Yeah, that would be a little bit more difficult. Let's see. Let's try this. So, previous meetings. Yeah, I don't know that there is a way that's built in to record that. It is kind of important to think about how the meeting would be used. So depending on, for example, if you're using this for students, where your students are located, if they're not all able to attend, if there are different time zones, things like that, there's kind of an argument back and forth between synchronous and asynchronous meetings. So it's good to have the ability to have meetings where everyone can join and kind of communicate all at the same time. But just be aware that it may be something that not everyone's able to for technological reasons or just logistical reasons as well.
Okay, thank you. We got a couple more questions in chat. Is there a benefit to cloud versus computer recording?
Yeah, so originally I would have said that cloud recording is better, but there is a limit on the amount of space that we have as a college. With everyone doing recordings now, it makes more sense for us to use Google Drive, which we have unlimited storage space with. So I would generally recommend saving it to the computer first, so doing local recording. Once you have that recording saved, you can go through and review it on your computer and then upload it to Google Drive after that. The nice thing about doing local recording is that you get the file immediately. It does take a couple seconds to go through and convert and all of that, but it doesn't take hours to go through and be processed by Zoom. And then also we have full ownership of it. So if we were doing a Zoom cloud recording, then technically it's on cloud, the Zoom server. You can download it, you can delete it from there. But when you have it on your computer, you have ownership of it. Putting it into Google Drive, it's, again, very heavily permissions based. So you can set permissions for specific people. If it's just something that you want to keep personally, you can do that. And the other nice thing about that is if you just want to record, for example, a screencast, and you want to record something that's asynchronous that you can share out to your students, you can use Zoom to record the meeting with no participants, just by yourself, record it to your computer, do all the things that you want to do with it. You can even edit that video afterwards if you want it to be fancy. And then upload it to, again, Google Drive, share it out from there. And that way you're kind of saving some space, on the cloud. You're being a little bit more proactive about being able to kind of use this going forward, because I don't think we want to run into issues where we run out of space.
Someone else asked how many recordings can you store?
On the cloud. So I don't know that there's a limit on the number, but if we look at a typical, let's say hour-long meeting, let's say it's 500 megabytes, and we have 50 gigabytes as an organization. So that's 100 recordings at an hour long for the entire college.
So
it's
your
not that
entire
many.
campus.
So
We're working on trying to get that expanded, but Zoom is a bit overloaded, and we do not think they have the capacity right now.
Yeah.
So it's best to create the computer, local recording, download it, and then put it up to Google Drive. Which leads us to the next question in chat, which is how much storage is there on Google Drive?
Google Drive is unlimited storage. You can save whatever you want, as much as you want. I've got 31 gigabytes here, and we were talking about that 50 gigabytes for the college for Zoom. I'm just using 31 gigs as my personal drive, and that's nothing compared to some that I've seen. So You can save as many as you want on your Google Drive. I would recommend saving everything to your Google Drive rather than your personal computer, because it will never go away. It's in the cloud. It's saved and backed up in multiple locations. So.
For reference, I have 194 gigs.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
157.
If anyone remembers our Mac tech from that retired last year, Denny Broderick had over 200 gigs just of music. So
Oh my God. Is that legal music?
of questionable legality. You didn't hear that from me.
Any other questions?
So cloud is essentially unlimited.
Google Cloud is unlimited.
Yeah, Google Drive
It's
is completely
the
unlimited.
Zoom cloud service that
Yeah.
we're a little bit limited by. So it's something we might actually even want to. We can look into that.
Oh, so we're recording lectures using Zoom.
Mhm.
And my understanding was that each lecture then gets assigned a web address in the cloud.
Yeah. So let me show you that again.
Is this the unlimited cloud that you're talking about, or a limited cloud?
That's the limited cloud.
So when we say cloud just means computers on another server somewhere. So when we're referring to clouds, we've got either the Google Cloud, so you've got your unlimited storage space through Google, which we have through our educational package. The other option is the Zoom Cloud, which Zoom is capable of recording to a Zoom Cloud, which is the space that we have on Zoom server, and we're a little bit limited on that. That's the one that we would not recommend recording to. So when you go to record, you have the option to record to this computer or record to cloud. When it says cloud, it's referring to the Zoom cloud, not Google. So this is the one that's limited where it says record to cloud. That's where once you finish that recording, you get a link that links to the video in the cloud that you would share out. But when you record it to the computer instead and then upload that to Google Drive and grab a link from there, it's also stored in the cloud, just stored in the Google Cloud. But that one we have a limited space for. So again, this would be the one that you just get a link, but we're limited on space. And record on this computer would give you the file, which you can put into Google Drive, which you can then link out from there that we have unlimited space for. Does that make more sense?
So it sounds like the best approach would be record on the computer.
Yeah.
And then save it on the Google Drive to the cloud.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an extra step because you're taking the file from your computer and storing it into Google Drive from there. But there's a lot of benefits in this case. It's kind of required just because the Zoom cloud at this point wouldn't be able to support kind of everyone doing that at the same time.
So at the moment, I've got a site called tinyurl.com/Bob course, where I say documents. Will I be creating a sort of a new file in that site where I can save lectures?
So when you go to that tiny URL, where does that take you to? Does it take you to Google Drive?
Well, I mean, what do you mean when I go to it?
So
you could go to it right here. I mean,
so tiny URL would redirect to another website. tinyurl.com/
course.
Yeah, so that goes to your Google Drive. So anything that you post, I mean, you could create new folders in there. You could also create a whole other folder within your shared drive, but anything that's in here is on your Google Drive. So if you upload those videos to one of these folders, you can share it out just like you've been doing with that link to anyone.
Yeah. The capacity of each of these folders apparently is 500 documents. I run up against, so in Econ 212, I ran up against the limit I could.
Okay.
Would you recommend that I create new files, new folders, or lectures into?
I wasn't aware that there was a limit. Is it a limit on file size or number of files? It sounds like number of files. Is that
I think that's what I ran up against in Econ 212.
okay? So yeah, then that would just be kind of an organizational thing. You might want to, rather than just having like an Econ 212, you might want to have an Econ 212, and then put something like Spring 2020 after it or something. If you want to separate them based on semester, you might want to have them separated by chapter. Like you could put folders within those folders to separate things out. I don't know of any limits. There's not going to be any limits on file size, but there might be limits on the number of files, individual files in one folder. So you might just need to add subfolders, or you may need to do kind of what you're doing here and just create new folders that have additional files in them. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we make the request for the, is there a software request?
You can make it a software request as long as you put in as long as it's an IT request and not a maintenance request, we'll get it and we'll take care of it. So.
There's been a lot of
We see
maintenance
them often,
requests.
so. Cool. If there's no other questions, then I think that about does it. Thank you, everyone.